Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Gordon Chesapeake here. So in this video we're going to talk about loading fonts into your React Native application, and also in conjunction with that we're going to talk about splash screen and adding icons to your app. Splash screen and loading fonts basically go shoulder by shoulder, because when you're loading your fonts, it's a good practice that you do that while the splash screen is showing to the user. Basically, that helps you with a bit better user experience. And one of the things that we're going to take care of also is making sure that our splash screen is configured for both dark and light theme, as we've worked through our past videos, basically adding light and dark theme to the application. We also going to use that for our splash screen as well, so that it dynamically picks up the theme of the app and show the proper splash screen. So with that, let's get started. First order of business here, we're going to take a look at some Expo documentation, starting with Expo splash screen over here. I'll put all these links in the description box below the video, and also at the end the code to the link to the GitHub repo will also be in the description box below the video. So as for the splash screen documentation, you'll see a couple links over here that they will help you basically create a good splash screen and also generate icon. I have used this link here to actually create this splash screen and icon for the application that I have in production, so feel free to take a look at that, but that's outside the scope of this video. I already have a splash screen and icon that I will be using. And also there is this generate, like a link to generate icon and a splash screen here. I couldn't get this to work, but if you want to, you can give it a try and generate some random icons that you can use. But basically here in the documentation, they're telling us that we need to install the Expo splash screen and some configuration and so on and so forth. We're not going to do that. The reason is that we are the application that we have been working on so far, we have set up the Expo router, and with Expo router there is actually a more straightforward way to do this. We'll get to that in a minute. So once you created your splash screens and icons using either these videos, or if you have a designer or anything, we can go back to our app, which, by the way, again, the starting point for the app is also on GitHub, and this is the end of the code that we had at the end of previous video. So I also need to let you know that we have used the Expo dev client to basically build the development builds using the Expo application services. Again, I'll put a link to that video as well, so you can go check that out, because we are going to use that in this video as well, to build a development build and then test everything on that. With the way that we are doing things with light and dark theme for our splash screen, I think I have read that it won't work if you're just testing things on Expo Go. It might work on production, but definitely with the development build, that the way that we are going to do things, we should be able to see both of that, basically light and dark mode, work well with the development build. So again, this is what we have already incorporated in the app, and I'm starting from that code base. Once you have your splash screen and icon, you can go ahead and add them to your assets folder. As you can see here, we have assets. For Android, you need to have an adaptive icon. Again, in that video over here, they explain how you need to create that. And then for iOS, just like an icon. This is again something from my production app that I'm using. And then this is also what I will be using for the splash screen. So these are our assets. Already I put them in the assets directory in order to let the application know that we want to have a different kind of like background color and that kind of thing for our light and dark mode. We need to come to the app.json file and then make some changes here to let the application know what files and like what kind of colors need to be read for either dark or light mode in iOS or Android. So if you look at the app.json file, you'll see that I have this splash section over here. That's where the splash.png is being read, and also right now background color is set to white color, but we're going to add a few more things to it. Now to play safe, I'm going to basically set up the dark mode in here first, but then we will also specifically set that up for our Android and iOS over here as well. So for the dark mode, I'm still going to use the same image, but basically you will add this dark key over here and then dark property, and then add the same image, resize mode, and background color to that. I'm going to use the same splash screen. It's basically this thing over here. The rest is gonna be the background color that I will assign to it. So that's going to be a dark color. For the light theme, it's going to be white color. And so I'm gonna do the same thing for my iOS and Android properties over here as well. So you can basically copy this whole thing over here and then paste that for iOS and Android. So add a comma here after bundle identifier or whatever you have here, and then add that to your iOS section over here. Get rid of this final comma, and then we do the same for Android as well. So we are going to add a comma again over here after package name, and then paste what we had over here, making sure to get rid of that extra comma over there, and then we can save it. So with that, the setup for our iOS and Android for dark and light theme for the splash screen should be good. We also added this icon.png that is already being basically added to our whole application through this icon over here, and the adaptive icon over here is going to look for this adaptive icon, as you can see, and then take care of the icon for our Android devices as well. I'm not going to build this right now, just create the development build. We're going to go to the next section and add this splash screen as well as font actually to our application. And then once we're done, we'll create a build and test the splash screen and font on our iOS simulator and Android emulator. Alright, let's talk about fonts. Again, looking at the Expo documentation, they have a section about fonts. You can read through this about adding custom fonts, but what we are going to do is actually looking at the using Google Fonts. So for that, we need to install Expo Font and Expo Google Fonts, whatever font that you want to. So for me, I'm going to bring in the Expo font, which we can find that on Google. Right here, you can see that under the fonts.google.com link, you can actually search for any fonts that you want. I'm going to use this Expo font. I know in the documentation they're using Enter, but we're just going to do something different so that you can see how you can bring your own selection of Google Fonts. So with that, we do need to copy this whole thing here, and I'm going to paste it. But like I said, I want Expo icon, Expo fonts, so that's what I'm adding here. And then enter and let that install go through. Alright, once that's done, you should see Expo Fonts and also your Expo Google Fonts, whatever font that you selected over here. So with that, we're good. Again, there is some details about how you can add this the icon to your the fonts to your application, and we're gonna take care of that in our layout.txt file, which is the entry point for our application, since we're using Expo router. So over here I'm going to bring those fonts in. So I want to use my 400 regular, 700 bold, and 900 black fonts over here. And also we need to bring use fonts as well from the Expo Google Fonts. And for now, we're just going to keep it like this. I'll get back to this a little bit later because we want to make sure that the setup that we have for splash screen and fonts kind of work together perfect, so that when you're loading the application, when it's just the application is being loaded, the fonts get loaded while the splash screen is being shown to the user. So for that, there is actually another documentation for that specific thing. So again, I put the link to this page in the description box below the video. Since we are using Expo router, they say that it extends the Expo splash screen. That's why we didn't actually have to install this Expo splash screen over here. And then the reason is that it's actually going to prevent a white flash when you open the app. Even if you have a dark mode, you might see a white splash before the white flash before the splash screen is shown. So in order to get rid of that, they recommend that we use this method with the Expo router. And there is also an issue or a discussion point on the Expo router GitHub repo, and if I scroll down here you can see that Evan Bacon, actually I guess the creator of Expo router, he has mentioned 3 steps to get rid of that white flash, and we're going to use his code over here to add our fonts and splash screen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of follow the same thing. I need to bring splash screen from Expo router in my layout.tsx file as well. So I have that over here, and then the next thing we want to do is to add the splash screen .prevent auto hide async, because we don't want to auto hide the splash screen. We want to the idea is while the font is being loaded, we want to show that splash screen, maybe set a timeout of a couple seconds, and then just hide the splash screen and go to the application. And that's basically what he explains here. So going back to our layout.tsx file, I'm going to now bring in my font. So what I have here is this code. We're gonna use this use fonts hook to see if and when the fonts are loaded or there is an error. So I am bringing all those three fonts, 400 regular, 700 bold, and 900 black over here. So once this is basically executed, we will know that the fonts are loaded or if we had error. So again, following his instructions over here, we're going to also use kind of a set timeout with use effect. So with that, I'm going to add this other use effect over here, which is looking to see if fonts are loaded or there's an error. Then we're gonna set a timeout of maybe like 2 seconds to then hide the splash screen. So that's what we are doing here. And then what we'll do is basically, if we're going to prevent rendering until the font has loaded or an error was returned. So as you can see here, we will be returning null, otherwise it will go through the rendering of our application once the fonts are loaded and there is no error. So we're good there. It's a little bit different from what he had over here, because we're also looking at the font's error, and that's coming from this snippet of code that we have here in the documentation. The only difference is that in the documentation they're not actually giving it a little bit of a timeout before hiding the splash screen, but since it's recommended here to add this timeout, we are doing that in our application over here, maybe like a couple seconds. And with that, our setup should be complete. So right now, this is when I will actually go ahead and create a development build. For that, as we talked in the previous video, I'm going to use this EAS build command over here for my development simulator for my iOS, and that's what we have defined in our eas.json file, the development simulator. Again, if you don't know what this is, go back and check my previous video. I'll put a link to that also in the description box below, and you might see something up here as well. So once we do that, I'm gonna hit enter, and this is going to start the build for my iOS simulator. You can see that the build is queued right now, and I can go and check my Expo EAS, basically Expo Application Services website. You can see that my simulator, the iOS build, is spinning up and it's getting started. You can control C out of this, and then also do a build for Android emulator. That's what I'm gonna do now. For the Android emulator, you can use this command, very similar. Instead of development simulator, we are going to use this development profile that we have. This is good for Android emulator as well as actual physical Android device. So with that, I'm going to hit enter. Since we are using the free version of the EAS over there, this is going to wait for the first build, our iOS build, to finish, and then it will get started. So I'm just gonna wait for these two to get built, and then I'll come back and continue over here. Alright, our iOS simulator build is done now. I can just click on it and download the build. So it's getting downloaded, and all I need to do is just go to my downloads folder over here, and then I am going to double click on this, and then it will open it up. Just unzip it, and then since I already had one over here, it's adding the number 2 to it, and then I will drag and drop it my iOS simulator, and then just wait for it to build. So once that's done, to install, once that's done, you can see that our icon is there. So first icon is working fine. Then I can click on it, and you will see that we need to start our the Expo server over here. So we have the command, it's basically npx expo start, and then --dev client. And then as you see here, if we click if we type I over here, it's gonna load our application here. So I have my light mode, and I have my light mode screen, which is the background of light. You can see I had the light mode set up. Again, this is something we set up in a previous video. I put a link to there up top over here. You can go check it out. But again, I can do another so restart the app. You can see that we had the light screen, and then there was like a little bit of delay since we were trying to load kind of give it a timeout over here of 2 seconds. Now for the fonts to change, we obviously haven't applied any fonts to the text in the application. Good practice is that I can go ahead and, let's say, create a new folder over here. I call this folder my components, and then inside this components folder I can actually go ahead and, let's say, create a component called custom text, or whatever you want to really call it. This is the text that the component that will be replacing the actual text from React Native. So what I have here is that I have defined a custom text, and I'm applying my font family of 400 regular to it. You can call it like regular text. You can have a bold text, super bold text, and that kind of thing. And it also allows for additional styling or class names to be added to this text. So I'll save it, and let's say in my dashboard screen, which should be this one, instead of text I do custom text, which is coming from the component that I just built. So that I needed to stay as text. This one is supposed to be custom text, and then now we don't need this text from React Native. And just look at this, you'll see that the font changed over there. And so if I reload the application over here, you will see that the font is already loaded, and we don't see any jumping or anything because that has been taken care of in our logic. So the next thing I'm going to show you is if we switch to dark mode, and then if now I reload my application, you'll see that the dark is applied. So again, reload, you can see that the background is dark, and that is what we assigned over here for the dark theme. We had a background of dark. Sometimes I've noticed that even with the logic that we did over here with the timeout and all the steps that we followed from this issue on GitHub, I still somehow noticed a little bit of white flash. So if you notice that, I don't think right now there is a solution for that. Like you can see here, this is what they have suggested. Right now I don't see that really. If I reload it, it's just dark background for the splash screen. Maybe if like I close that and then reopen it, just like there you saw, like for a little bit there was a white background, but it might be because it's in development environment. So definitely hopefully it works in the production. So this was the iOS. Android is gonna be the same. I will show you also the Android part in a sec right now. So back to Expo, our dashboard over here. I see that my Android build is also done, and then I can go there and click on this three dots over here and download the build. Once that is done, you can just drag and drop it on your Android emulator. So I just dragged the APK file that I downloaded, and you should be able to see the icon that we added. This is the adaptive icon that we added in the asset folder, and that's being used over here. I can just click on it. So the Android app is built, and you can see right now we are in light mode. So if I refresh, you will see that we have the light background. And then if I go to profile over here and change it to dark background, I can refresh over here. So for this one, it's not working. So for Android, the dark screen, the way that we had it set up did not work. I was still seeing the white background on the splash screen, and so I had to come up with a better solution there. If you go back to app.json file, I now have a new image file for my dark mode for Android, which, by the way, you could have used this method also for iOS as well, but there only the background color change was enough and it worked. But here, since that didn't work, I actually created another splash dash dark with a dark background, and for that I actually used the same video they had on Expo documentation. If you go through that, there is this Figma file that they give you access to, and then there I created this splash screen with the dark background and just exported it as PNG, and that's what you see here. And then with that added as my image for the dark splash screen, I rebuilt the application using the Expo EAS command, and then with that, now I have that installed, the APK installed on this emulator, and the server is running. And if I had that set up as dark, so if I click on it, you can see that the dark background for the splash screen is working fine. As you can see for the profile over here, I had the dark selected, and I can actually reload it, and you can see the dark mode here. So with that, the dark mode for Android is also working, and everything should be fine now. Our font is also updated. By the way, for the custom text, we had this font. You can have any other font over here, but also with the layout for this dashboard, I got rid of the font bold that we had. That was working fine on iOS, but with Android, that was overriding the 400 regular that we had in the custom text. So it makes sense actually to get rid of that, because our font is supposed to be the regular weight here. Alright, so that was it. I hope you learned something new and enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button below the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn the notification bell on, and I will continue uploading videos. So hopefully you will enjoy all of those as well.